Hey friends. Hope you are doing well, and welcome to Earning First. Channel about personal finance and personal wealth. Are you interested? Then here you will find a lot of interesting and helpful tips. And in today's video we are going to talk about very interesting topic. What is true wealth? How to achieve it? How to maintain it? But before we will dig into it, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and stay tuned. So let's start. Shall we? What is wealth? This is actually a really good question that I've spent years analyzing, reading books and casually interviewing people, rich and poor, all over the world on the subject. This question and the conclusions I made changed my entire outlook on life. Eventually, I came up with a conclusion which split wealth into three different categories. Public wealth, public infrastructure such as good roads, electricity, communications, peace and safety, healthcare, clean drinking water, clean air, availability of good quality education, responsible government. This is primarily why rich people from poor countries migrate to the West. Quality of life wealth. This includes things like housing and financial security, income, food security. Generally, if you can afford to leave or throw out unfinished food at a restaurant, you're already more wealthy than most of the world's population. Being able to afford to buy a bag of refined sugar makes you richer than the 15th century King of England. This is primarily why poor people from poor countries migrate to the West. Status and luxuries wealth. This is the type of superficial wealth we think of the most when we refer to wealth. The automatic respect, real, faked or perceived, women or boy toys, handbags, paintings, luxury cars, mansions, yachts, private planes and toys galore. Much of the time, people just want the social status that comes with owning these items more than the actual utility of these things. The novelty wears off pretty quickly, and most people just realize they just want genuine friends and family to share a meal and laugh with. Wealth is ultimately a gray area definition with a lot of relativity in measurements and overlap with influence, control, power or money as a tool to achieve some desired end goal. One of the books I read called The Haves and Have-Nots discussed wealth in terms of ability to organize manpower, but that's where the blurry line between wealth and power or influence exists. I have access to more information, human knowledge and even music than President Kennedy had in the 1960s, and all in the palm of my hand. I'm richer than an Egyptian pharaoh in many modern luxury goods like being able to afford refined sugar, a rarity reserved for royalty until sugar plantations became common in the Caribbean colonies. Roman emperors had frozen ice with fresh fruit toppings delivered to them from the Swiss Alps via a network of the fastest horses available, but I can literally go down the street to the 24-hour mart and buy a variety of ice cream flavors without any extra thought. I can buy fresh fruit like oranges that was imported from the other side of the world, something that my colleagues who grew up in Soviet Siberia could only fantasize about when they were children. Before airplanes and refrigeration existed, pineapples were especially prized and worshipped as a status symbol in Victorian England because of their novelty and rarity. If you visit museums, you'll see Victorian-era jewelry and furniture subtly incorporate pineapples into their designs. The Dunmore pineapple in Scotland is even less subtle. It looks bizarre to us today, but it was then the equivalent of mounting a Lamborghini on your living room wall to show off your wealth. I've traveled to more places in the world and seen far more than Queen Victoria ever did in her entire lifetime. I've been to India 3 times, but she never even had the chance to visit India despite being titled the Empress of India. I suspect she would have chosen to trade places with me in a heartbeat if given the choice. In that regard, I could call myself the Emperor of India, and it wouldn't make any difference to my life either. Her wealth, titles, power and influence was unable to free her from her royal restrictions. She lived in a gilded cage. At 18 years old, her freedom of movement and life choices ended when she uttered the promise of burden and responsibility. "I will be a good queen the night her father, the king, passed away." Did I ever mention that commoner me has indoor cooling, heating, and plumbing while servants would have collected her night soil in the mornings? Great kings and emperors died from diseases I got inoculated for when I was 4 years old. However, Queen Victoria was able to theoretically command vast armies across the entire globe, while the pharaohs were able to raise men to build pyramids that lasted over 4,000 years. If I ever wanted to do that, I can only satisfy such ambitions through a video game. Personally, I don't care to raise armies of men, to conquer the world or build pyramids in my name. Sure, it would be cool to have a $500 yacht, but I won't be any less happy or suffer from status anxiety if I don't own one either. I've been lucky and privileged to have seen and done a lot more than most people may ever in their lifetimes. I've dated women of every skin color all over the world, and I'm rich in a multitude of experiences earned that money cannot buy. I have friends and stories from many corners of the globe. It's one thing if I have a race car hobby, but I don't need to own fancy handbags or drive a $2 million car to prove anything to anybody or to try to make anyone like me more. I just want to play the piano better, learn more languages, be a better chef in the kitchen, and make more people laugh at my jokes. I can throw money at it, but these things also can't be bought with money and must be earned. So what is wealth for? Ultimately, more money is good financial security, and most people who are rich will primarily seek ways to save or free up more time for their lives as well as the best possible healthcare to live as long as possible so that they can learn to play the piano better, cook better dishes and laugh more with their friends and family. People often point out Warren Buffett as a billionaire lives in a modest middle-class-sized home he has owned since the 1960s, but he has something other billionaires don't: enough. That is the real definition of wealth: to be happy, healthy and to have the freedom to be able to do the things you really want. Not he who dies with the most toys wins. I had to read a lot of books, travel the world, and have lots of discussions with many people for years to figure out these words: health, happiness and a life well lived is wealth. When I read stories about the 19th century billionaire misers who spent an entire night looking for a nickel they dropped, or the guy who wouldn't pay the ransom for his grandson until the victim had an ear cut off, I know they were wealthy in money, but lived poor lives wasted in the pursuit of more money, and many died miserable and isolated. So what is the greatest paradox of becoming wealthy? I have worked for billionaires, centimillionaires and still represent mainly the affluent. What I see with extremely wealthy people that have created or grown a business, senior executives or entrepreneurs, rather than inherited wealth is the time commitment to effectively run any company of any magnitude and stay current on how your funds are being invested, have very little time available outside of business commitments. The business and financial part of your life is an enormously time-consuming task. The paradox is that with the increased commitment to your business, the decreased time available for your personal life. The expression of stopping to smell the roses is applicable. Think of it, you can purchase anything you ever dreamed of, but have little time to enjoy it. There are always exceptions, but that has been my observation. Most wealthy people who started their own businesses, or executives who worked their way to the C-suite, senior executives, are the first to work, the last to leave and turn off the lights and coffee machine before they leave. The pay is great, but do not forget to smell the roses. Anyhow, let me give you some concrete advice. So what are the secrets of wealthy people? Here are a few things. First, count your chickens. Most people believe that a budget is a constraint. Most people are poor because they have far too much faith in their own judgment of how their money flows in and out of their accounts. Wealthy people have budgets because knowing how much money will leave their accounts and when gives them a clear direction to plan their savings and investments. Next, bread and butter money first, then you can play. A very wealthy mentor of mine always gave extra math lessons to kids after school. This was a highly accomplished businessman. I asked him once why he would still waste his time with kids. His response? It paid the bills, minimizing his risk when he takes on riskier, but more lucrative investments. Wealth earned doesn't fall out of the sky. It takes planning, discipline and effort. That's it for today. Hope it was interesting and helpful. If you have any questions or thoughts, leave your comments down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button. And I will see you soon. Love you all. Have a good day. Bye.